Breaking tonight, the leaks are one of the main headlines that came out of today's testimony by former FBI Director James Comey. President Trump has denounced leaks left and right, but tonight there are some new questions swirling about what info was not leaked. Watch this.
Do you ever wonder why, of all the things in this investigation, the only thing that's never been leaked is the fact that the president was not personally under investigation, despite the fact that both Democrats and Republicans and the leadership of Congress knew that and have known that for weeks?
I don't know. I find matters that are briefed to the Gang of Eight are pretty tightly held, in my experience.
Here now, Democratic Congressman Swalwell, who sits on the House Intelligence Committee, and he joins me here. Good to see you this evening.
Thanks for having me back.
I thought that was a pretty interesting moment, because you look back on the leaks that happened to the New York Times, one of which was that James Comey had been asked to make a loyalty pledge, and then right after that you had the president saying, well, James Comey better hope there are no tapes. And then that was followed up by the memos. And yet the one thing that the president kept wanting to get out there, which was, can you please let them know I'm not under investigation, is the only thing that never got leaked.
Well, maybe he was following Director Comey's advice, which was not to talk about an investigation. Otherwise, the director would have to prove a negative. And so I think the most damaging thing was, though, that he sought the director's loyalty, that he wanted his friend's case to go away.
But James Comey was leaking things about the investigation.
I don't think he was leaking anything.
He admitted it today. He said, I put my memos out there because I wanted to make sure that people knew my side of the story.
James Comey was a private citizen when that was disclosed, so as long as he disclosed something that was unclassified, I don't think there's a problem. And he said today, after the hearing, as I understand, that he hopes the memos become public, which they should.
Interestingly, he said, I wanted them to be leaked because I wanted there to be a special prosecutor.
Well, we certainly should have a special prosecutor, and now we do. But, you know, this investigation now is in the hands of Bob Mueller. On the House investigation, we just hope that we can conduct an honest one that makes progress and that is independent, and that the president stays out of the way. He has caused more trouble by getting in the way of the FBI's investigation and the House Intelligence Committee's investigation. I hope he's learned his lesson and lets us proceed.
Why do you think it's unusual that he would want them to speak about the fact that he was not under investigation, given the fact that there was, as he said, this cloud hanging over? He wanted to be able to get on with his agenda. Doesn't that seem like a fairly reasonable thing to want? You know, he's been told it 3 times directly by the FBI director, which he confirmed today, and yet that was the one thing that the FBI director wasn't willing to help get off of him.
And the reason Director Comey gave, I think, was a valid one. And so the president's team was under investigation, and that's what I think is important here, is the timeline. The president learns his team is under investigation at the very latest on March 20, when Director Comey tells Congress that. And then when you follow the timeline, Director Comey is called by the president and asked to lift the cloud around the Russia investigation, and then is shortly fired thereafter. I think the dots here connect to Director Comey wouldn't do what the president wanted, and so he was fired.
Interesting that, you know, he said, I couldn't do it because then there would be a duty to correct if we reopened, or if we opened for the first time, rather, an investigation into the president.
And we've been there before, right?
Exactly. I mean, you know, when you look back at last summer, so you have to ask yourself why, on the one hand, with the Clinton investigation, he wanted to protect them from having to get a special prosecutor, and in this case, he wanted to turn over information that he hoped would lead to that. Doesn't that seem like a double standard?
Well, maybe the director also evolved and understood, you know, what that did to the country, right or wrong. So I wouldn't look too deeply into that.
Swalwell, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Good to have you here today.